This is what I mean by the crazy weather of the monsoon. I showed you the Virgo the other day where it didn't even hit the ground. Today, I got a gully washer right in my own yard. And it's funny because you go any direction 1 mile and there's no rain. This is down the street. Today I'm going to go retro for a minute, and then I'm going to talk about something that I just did recently. We have just gone through the 4th of July holiday. Here's a little story I have to tell about a tank you may know very well. It started out in the 3rd AD and was very important in World War II history. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to talk about my In the Mood build, one of my favorite builds from back in the early 2000s. It was probably my 5th tank. It was started out as a Tamiya standard full option tank. It was converted using a Nick Aguilar set of parts. That included a resin hull, resin turret, resin transmission cover, 76mm T23 turret, and a few other tidbits from his collection. Now, this tank was intended to be built as In the Mood, the famous tank by Lafayette Poole, a sergeant in the 3rd Armored Division. If you don't know the story of Lafayette Poole, basically, if you've seen the movie Fury, the character War Daddy was based after him. Now, War Daddy was at the end of the war in Fury, but the original War Daddy was right after D-Day in France, right after Normandy, and through the hedgerows, through France, into Belgium, and eventually into Germany. The story is almost too incredible to tell, but this man and this crew, operating in a couple M4s, they had 3 total, essentially functioned as the spearhead of the 3rd Armored Division. In 81 days, this one crew is credited with 12 tanks, 250 plus vehicles, and self-propelled guns, with 1,000 German casualties, and they took over 250 prisoners of war by themselves. This all happened between June 25th and September 20th in 1944. Technically, there were 3 In the Moods, a 75mm Sherman, and then that one was damaged and taken out of service. He was issued a new 76mm tank out of stocks, and he used that extensively for the next couple months. Eventually, that tank also was damaged, and I believe it was hit in a friendly fire incident. And he was issued a 3rd tank, which was the one he only used for about a month, which is the one that we believe is in most of the photographs. And afterwards, that tank, unfortunately, he was operating around Aachen, Germany, at a town called Münsterbusch, and a Panther tank managed to put a round through it, which took off his leg and killed some of his crew. So this was the first 16th scale tank I decided to do that was based on a real vehicle. I had done some 35th scale stuff based on, for instance, Cuckoo, the captured Panther, and the Tiger 131, and some other famous Shermans, but this was the first in 16th scale. So I decided to actually go in and use a lot of the detail parts that were available. I used Shumo metal to make it really accurate. I decided to replace the bearings and the bogey wheels. Now, in this generation of tanks and Shermans in particular, we were still limited to the HVSS suspension as a reliable, functional RC product. There were a few cottage industry ones out there that had handmade VVSS suspension. So I decided to make a waist-up conversion to start with. Eventually I would convert it to a VVSS, but for this part I took a lot of time to go through and make sure the suspension was made very correctly and very cleanly so that it ran smoothly. Now, to blend all this together, I used a lot of primer and Rust-Oleum to coat all the parts so that there was an even surface. I even used a special resin part primer so that there was a balance between the metal, the resin, the plastic, and any of the white metal or any of the other photo etch or whatever parts came into play later. The Mr. Resin Primer Surfacer is a really good product, and I recommend it highly. The only little bit of contention I had with this kit to start with is the cast hull made by Nick had a bulge over the gunner's compartment. That was a very subtle change made in later M4A1s, up into included the ones that were Israeli. So I ground it down to make it more of the World War II shape. On the turret, I made a few changes to make it a very early T-23 turret. I took off the ventilator on the back and changed a few other parts to be indicative of the early layout of this turret. And I started to add the Tamiya guts. Now, this first iteration didn't have a recoil setup. It was basically straight Tamiya, elevation and traverse. So those parts fit right into Nick's hull because he put posts and accommodations for the traverse and elevation and battle system. It made it a very easy progression to put this thing together. I went through the suspension and the transmissions one more time to make sure they were clean and functional. Once more, hats off to Nick Aguilar for making sure the Tamiya parts were useful, like the hull clamps. I used Tester's Model Master Flat Earth as the primer coat for all the various layers, and I made sure that the upper hull, lower hull, and suspension parts all had a coat. I used Tester's Olive Drab, not the Model Master variant, the regular olive drab out of the can. That is more indicative of an earlier war tank. And I sprayed all the suspension components and eventually did the bogies, the drive sprockets. I needed to redo the details of the back hull, so I added some plastic plate so that the stuff would stick better. And my favorite part often is the Shumo metal parts. They just look the part. They're really rugged, and nowadays they're harder and harder to come by. The Apple got the full coat of paint, the Testers Flat Earth, the olive drab. Then I went into sort of an enhanced detail mode. I went and made sure the upper hull was clean and furbished. And then I went a little off the deep end. I did my wooden handled tools and the custom tool brackets. Basically, I was just trying to add some extra detail and make it stand out. Once the final olive drab coat was finished, I went over with Tamiya masking tape to create what the outlines of the black camo. Then I used Tamiya NATO black to paint the stripes, the common camouflage for that period of the war. Next up was the dry transfer decals to make the markings, the serial number, and the unit number, and of course the In the Mood name. They went down very well. I used regular Tamiya decals on the hull. I did add a circle around the rear deck using a mask and painting it. The Shumo parts, including the brush guards, went on very well, and soon it was in battle. This tank was actually very, very competitive and managed to spend a lot of time on the field and was a loner when a great many people used it. Now, after years of abuse and subterfuge, it has been relegated to the junk pile. I mean, clearly, if you look around my shop, there would be no overt clue that I love the Sherman tank and its many derivatives.
Well, you really want to know about island hopping. We'll get to that later when I redo my Iwo Jima Sherman.
No, we did that in 7th grade.
And when it comes time to redo my Iwo Jima Sherman, we will talk about island hopping again. But for now, we're going to go look at my favorite tank, which is the
Sherman.
So we talked about this the other day. This is my original M4A1 cast hull made by Fire Nick, aka Nick Aguilar of Texas. A few things are not totally period correct for In the Mood. For instance, the original In the Mood, most of the pictures show it without the cover of the ventilator, but Fire Nick's hulls are very nice because he even cast in the tow hook holders. But here's the problem. Notice if I put it on the turntable and you look down here, you'll see no two parts of the hull
touch flat anymore. That is kind of a wreck. So, for example, I suppose I could heat it up and water it down. Most people put supporting structure on the inside. But what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to scavenge the front, because the front's relatively safe. I would love to turn it into a hybrid hull. Now, this is an M4 hybrid. Do you know why it's a hybrid?
Is it perhaps a mix of two different types of tank?
Correct. Can you tell what might be the mix? It's right here. It's really big. It looks like a Frankenstein scar.
Yeah. Because they went like...
You're right. The front part is a different kind of steel. What kind of steel is that? Is it
Titanium.
welded or is it cast?
Cast?
It's cast. They literally made a mold and they pour the metal in and they make it cast.
Yeah, because it's all bumpy.
Well, yes. Well, this is just sheet metal. This is just a brush card.
No, I mean,
But
it's all bumpy right here.
yes, this is all bumpy. It's got pits in it. Yeah, that's cast hull. Why did they do that? Well, the word on the street is the cast hull tanks had better results with things bouncing off, so they had better ballistic performance. The rest of the hull was easier to build welded. Okay, it was a smaller. Now, this is a 75 millimeter tank. It has a radial engine in the back. Same engine. No, there's a couple planes that had them. They were mostly small light aircraft. The Beechcraft Stagger Wing is one of the famous ones. There were a couple other planes that had it. But this, yes, it had a radial engine. You can tell by the big boxy air cleaners in there and the big opening to see the 9-cylinder engine. You can sometimes tell by the little ears here. These are air intakes.
So this basically replaced 400 cavalry horses?
Yes. Now the funnier part about this tank is it used to be a range target. Do you know what that means? It was a range target. It got shot at a lot. Look at all the pieces that have dents and dings and holes in them.
Question, Professor.
Yes.
Are these little places stuff where things were fired at it?
Yeah, some of this is probably just bullet holes. They would fill it in with welding.
Exactly, like here.
Yep.
Somewhere around
Yeah, this tank has a lot of damage on it from being a target.
here. Just like the F-35.
Well, this is more like on the ground shooting up machine guns, but it could have been bombed too. All right, DAC crowd. The distance between videos is because I have other priorities. This time I'm on a road trip, but I am representing. Got the hat, got the Arizona Military Vehicle Collectors Club shirt on. I will be headed west. For the record, it's wicked hot. Well, that's neat.
You look like a tourist.
Hello, Dak, and welcome to the Patton Museum at Chiricahua Summit, California. Believe it or not, this is a good place to come and look at some tanks, get gas, and lunch on your way to California. Many of the Arizonans pass by this place really fast. I like to stop.
Anyone headed west to LA from Phoenix knows about 3 hours into the trip there is the Chiricahua Summit exit, which has a very unusual destination. It's the Patton Museum, located at the former Camp Young, one of the original parts of the Desert Training Center established in 1942. This is actually the location of Patton's command when he was assigned the mission of training the United States Army's Armored Corps in preparation for the North African invasion. Coincidentally for our In the Mood build, he was in command of the 3rd Armored Division here.
This museum is located right off the I-10 in Chiricahua Summit, California. And it is a menagerie of stuff donated by the Patton family and other people who've contributed over the years. It's a wooden Huey. It's been renovated over the years and actually greatly added to recently. When you used to come through here, there was like 1 or 2 trays of models. And that was about it. Now it has expanded to include the indoor and outdoor areas. I like this one too. This was the General Dynamics Sergeant York prototype. Apparently worked better than the other one, but was more expensive, and it used the 35mm guns, similar to the Gepard. They wanted 40mm. Now the Desert Training Center obviously was in preparation for North Africa and took up large parts of the area here and then some in Arizona. The current gift shop basically is near the old Camp Young, which was the southern part of the Desert Training Center. This whole area has been expanded in the past couple of years. Quite extensive. All right, we come outside. This is what people are familiar with. It used to be a lot of outside tank stuff. Oh, look at the Jeep. I'm always looking at these things because I want to know what the colors are. So this is for instance, the seat covers. This is a reproduction, obviously, but they're kind of a buff tan color, right? Got to get that right. Oops, somebody needs to fix that. You ask a good question. No, that is not an Easy 8. That is actually what they call a hybrid Sherman. This is a Pershing. This is a later one with the later gun on it. 90mm gun. The rest of the tank is more of an earlier style. Has the original exhaust on it. Also has the radio box for the infantry. Now this one, you notice they moved the gun barrel brace to the deck because they didn't like this when it was here because it cracked the fairing. First aid kit went in here. Ford GAF engine. A different flywheel on it, made it different. Then obviously the big turret.
Question, Professor.
Yes.
Who put it under a guillotine?
Well, this is probably the turret off that other one, but they also did this as a trainer. Let's come around on the side here and you can see. This one is to explain. This is how you can tell how thick the armor was. Oops. All right, climb the ladder and take a peek inside. This side would be the commander's side. Do not press the big shiny do not press button. All right, Lily, this is the turret of an M60 tank. That is a 105mm M68A1 gun. Do not stand where the red stuff is. You will become goo.
Oh, should it go back?
Yes, that's where it recoils. So where you are, that's the commander's position. That handle is what he calls the override. He can turn the turret and he can fire the gun if he wants to. And that hatch above, there's a little cupola in it, and he's got a little machine gun in there.
Question, Professor. Please tell me this thing had air conditioning.
No, it did not. Imagine being it this hot. This is how hot it would be in this tank. Now it had fans and ventilators, but at the time there was no air conditioning. Modern tanks have air conditioning. All right, so this is the ready rack where the 105mm rounds were stored. You can see the seats for the loader right here, the gunner over there, the commander right there. This is actually fairly big for a turret, you have to admit.
Question, Professor. I feel like I might have found your most favorite thing in the world.
Oh yes,
This
a mobile ice-cold Coca-Cola carrier.
vintage too, I guess. That'd make it your favorite.
One of the greatest strategic things they ever did was provide creature comforts to our troops. A lot of the troops were young. They didn't drink alcohol, they drank soda. So to create the at-home mystique, they actually came up with all kinds of refrigeration to move these things around. Good eye! This tank is opened up so you can walk in. Why don't you take the phone with you and do a little tour.
I think this is the byproduct of the guillotine.
The guillotine?
The guillotine? Okay, you know what?
You can call it whatever you want. All right.
That's what my history teacher called it. Let's see. There's the loading rack, or I don't know, ammunition storage down there. I feel like any minute a cockroach is gonna crawl out of one of these. Here. Okay, you're in charge now.
My daughter has very... Oh no!
If you're asking what I get out of being tortured with history facts on my, like, maybe 3 weeks of summer vacation, there's always a chance. One can hope.
All right, Lily found her favorite stuff. This is the wildlife. No, Lily, you cannot take the fox home. Interesting. My daughter just recognized an MRE. Have you ever had an MRE?
Yes.
Do you remember what kind?
It was like couscous and like vegetables or something.
Oh. This one alleges to be chili and macaroni.
Sure.
Yeah, these are fascinating. We're going to talk about the K rations in one of our videos later, but the whole idea of the American military being able to provide 4,000 calories a day or whatever the recommended was over massive distances is often amazing. Just a story about a man and his dog. So that's interesting. They've moved a few more M60 types out here into the open. I love Murdoch schemes. Do not climb on the tank, Lily. Oh, it's got the ERA still on it. These guys are more fixer-uppers. It's a big fixer-upper. An army travels on their stomach. We're here in Palm Springs, Palm Desert area. And of course, where else would a tank club person go for dinner? Someone said she wanted soup. This is for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Where's your soup? Looks good.
Have a pickle.
Thank you.
So we just learned this place is super cool. You know how cool it was? A month ago during Coachella, Justin Bieber sat right there. So if we were here a month ago, we would have been that close. That close.
That sounds like
My daughter only knows who he is because he played during the halftime at the World Cup. We're gonna get Lily.
I was born over 12 years ago. I know what that is.